It is February, which means we are getting now a little bit more into the meat of the year. We have a Samsung event coming up, and we also have just announced an Apple event coming up. I don't know what's going to be announced at any of these events. It could be anything, but we can speculate.
Galaxy
what's in your pocket?
S23 plus.
Nothing.
I think we know what's getting announced at the Samsung event.
Yeah.
Do we?
The
Yeah.
S26
It could be
lineup.
anything, Andrew.
What if it's a folding?
They haven't said.
Why are your hands in your pockets?
Why are they spending so much money on this launch event in San Francisco when it's literally somebody put on Twitter the launch event from last year and they said leaked S26 launch event. All the comments were like, "Wow, so cool that you got this." Or, like literally nobody even could realize that it was last year's.
Samsung's official invitation says, "Unpacked February 2026. The next AI phone makes your life easier." That could be anything.
Maybe what if this whole event is just them re-announcing Bixby?
I can't wait for that day.
Yeah,
And
it's
Bixby
gonna
speaker
be
comes
The
back.
Galaxy Home will finally
Galaxy
come out.
Home.
It's going to be S26, S26
That was
Plus,
peak.
S26
The Galaxy
Ultra,
phone finally launches.
Galaxy speaker. Anyway, but the Apple event we actually don't know also, but we kind of probably also do know.
Yeah.
We can guess. What do we hope gets announced at these types of things?
Well, I wanted to see new Mac Minis to run Claude, but I'm just kidding.
No,
but-
David, no.
I'm only kind of kidding. But there are all these rumors of the new Apple A series MacBook that we've been talking about for many, many, many months now.
Yeah.
And this seems to actually be the thing that people are saying might come out because the invitation that went out for people there's this March 4th event that's happening that is apparently just going to be sort of an experience event. And people are saying that there's not going to be like a keynote. They're going to release that stuff separately. But the colors in that launch event poster are the colors that people are saying that these MacBooks might be colored as. It's like a light green, a light yellow, sort of a really cheap $700 model.
Can I just say, every time we do the speculation about what the event invite means, I always wish that someone had done like a how close were we about previous event invites and what it actually ended up being. Someone's probably done that.
I think they've analyzed every invite and then
what the hint was and what it turned out to be. Mm-hmm. Okay. So this is the possible new colors of this colorful new, cheaper entry-level MacBook powered by an A-series chip.
Yeah.
I'm very interested in this. I think right now we're in a spot where Apple Silicon's gotten super, super good. And whenever we talk about MacBook Air, which is the current cheapest laptop they make, it is such an easy to recommend $1,000, $1,100 laptop. It's almost like the default way of getting into Apple laptops. Mm-hmm. But there are lots of laptops that are way cheaper than that. And the Mac Mini came out and was maybe the best deal in tech at $600 and being just enough computer for anyone who just needs a computer. But what if you need a laptop and you have $600? This is a spot that Apple can probably ship a ton of laptops.
Oh my God.
And if the A-series chip is good enough, they don't need to ship an M1 in this thing, they can ship an A-series chip in super high volume, it could be a winner.
I mean, they really want to compete with the Chromebooks on the education front because Google really locks people the hell in. I mean, I think the fact that they came out with the education bundle so recently, the creative apps for education and all that stuff is not a coincidence because the biggest thing that really moves people through Google's ecosystem is using Chromebooks while they're in elementary school. And then they just have Google accounts. They just continue on with it. So Apple's like, we really want a piece of that pie. Mm-hmm. And considering if they're selling this to consumers at $700, I would imagine that they would give them to schools for even cheaper.
Yeah.
So they could really ship a lot of these. But I think most people don't need the power of M5, M4, in their laptops.
Yeah.
So honestly, an A18, it's basically just an iPad, but with an interface that makes sense. I think that could be a winner.
Yeah, it's funny because there's this whole other slate of possible things we're thinking Apple might announce. Another one is a touchscreen MacBook Pro, maybe at some point late this year or next year, something like that.
Yeah.
And so we're kind of keeping an eye on how macOS is evolving and what the app situation looks like and how that's happening. And obviously, they're so similar in architecture anyway. You're running lots of those apps. It makes total sense that an A-series chip would work in a cheap MacBook.
Yeah.
But it now makes even more sense that we could see a touchscreen version of macOS.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is interesting because what happens to the MacBook Air? I mean, they kind of created this really, really big pipeline of computers at that point where the MacBook Air was supposed to be the cheapest, most affordable model, and it's 13 inches. So is the only differentiating factor going to be the fact that it has a not as strong processor?
Yeah, I think it'll be
the main thing.
Air will go back to meaning middle.
I think it'll be middle, but like I'd assume if we're guessing that this A18 version of the MacBook is going to be something almost like a Chromebook that we give to schools, I'd assume the chassis that it's in is going to be pretty
A little cheaper.
Yeah, a cheaper version of it, which means thicker, which means probably more ports and stuff like that for kids. So then, like, are we assuming this is the cheaper in all aspects version of the MacBook? Then the Air is kind of like the in between. I understand I don't need a ton of processing power or ports. Thinner, I'm traveling all the time, gets everything done I need to be. The cheaper, I don't say grown up version, but and then we have the Pros that are Pro models.
Yeah. I kind of see it as an expansion of the lineup downward, and I don't know what to expect ports-wise from this. I think naturally if it's going to education, you have to have a couple of ports, but I could see Apple not doing that.
Yeah,
which is interesting.
I mean, everything's online.
USB ports.
Yeah, maybe not
That's
more
it.
ports.
Do you even but all that education stuff is on the internet.
That's
anyway.
a good point.
Do you really need any ports besides a charging port?
I always picture an HDMI port, but I haven't been in a classroom in so long that I'm not even sure you need that anymore.
The kids don't need it.
They definitely don't need
Yeah,
HDMI.
the kids don't need it.
HDMI is like only for the pros.
I guess if you want to think about it of like the iPad lineup of like they had an iPad mini, an iPad Pro, and then they had the like iPad for education one that still had the old button and everything for super, super cheap. Like this MacBook would be that, I guess.
Exactly. Yeah. So it puts Air in the middle again. So in the iPad lineup, it's iPad,
iPad Air.
then there's Air, and there's iPad Pro.
Yeah.
And then Air is in the middle. So the MacBooks, it would be like the MacBook. This is like the 12-inch MacBook they wanted to do
I
well.
literally have that pulled up
back
right
in the
now.
day.
That's the one that
It's like a slightly smaller, slightly cheaper, slightly underpowered, but totally fine for most people laptop. And then if you really need the upgrade, okay, here's a bigger screen, here's a bigger battery. It's the MacBook Air. It's $1,100 and it's all the computer you probably need. And then the Pros for the people who need that.
Yeah.
Air is in the middle again. And then what else is Air? I mean, iPhone Air is kind of in the middle, sort of.
Yeah.
Price-wise, it's technically
price
in the middle.
is in the middle.
So, yeah, it kind of works.
That's true. It's rumored to have a 12.9-inch display, whereas the MacBook Air has 13.6. Not a huge difference there. It's something. I was really hoping they would go for an actual like 12-inch super hyper portable display, especially if they're trying to get into the education market where kids' backpacks are like the size of a purse. I think that could be really helpful.
Am I the only one just straight up picturing the MacBook from 2015?
No, yeah, for sure.
And
The
they're 12-inch
12-inch MacBook.
Make the bezel bigger and that,
smaller.
smaller.
You know what's funny about
That's
this?
it.
I mean, I would love that.
I think that the 12-inch MacBook, hear me out, and the trash can Mac Pro have a lot in common. Ready? Ready for this? I'm going to blow your mind.
I'm ready.
This was back in the earlier days of almost like late Johnny Ive Apple, of ultra minimalism, where they had an idea of a computer that they wanted to make, but they didn't have the silicon to really make it a reasonable computer.
Concepts of a computer.
So the Mac Pro trash can was like this ultra small, single fan computer with like a Intel chip in there and like dual Radeon GPUs. It was ridiculous. It was crazy that they even tried that, but they did, and it was a computer that would readily overheat and leave dead pixels in your video exports. But it was a thing that they probably could have done with Apple Silicon a couple of years later
100%.
really, really well.
Yeah.
The 12-inch MacBook is the same thing. That was powered by an Intel Core M3 or i5 or i7 or whatever back in 2017.
Yeah.
And it was a smaller, a little bit underpowered, a little bit too much heat throttled type of computer where like if they had Apple Silicon back then, that would have actually been a reasonable computer. So I think this is them revisiting that concept. I don't think they're going to revisit that trash can Mac Pro. I think that's just Mac Studio now.
Yeah.
But that's like the too early for Apple Silicon idea that can come around and actually be good again.
I wish that they would release the trash can again as the trash can fan edition.
They
Mac Pro
could.
with an M chip. That'd be so sick.
I have so many other thoughts about Mac Pro. Mac Pro is basically dead.
Yeah,
I think. And we can get to some of these other rumors because we're expecting more M5 MacBook Pros and like higher end, like finishing out the M5 chip lineup, like an M5 Pro and an M5 Max.
Whether Ultra ever gets upgraded from M2 Ultra, I'm not sure.
Because, the Mac Pro is still on M2 Ultra.
Yeah.
at this point, there is an M3 Ultra chip. It's only in Mac Studio. There is no M4 Ultra chip yet. If they did make it,
really made
Does
this
that
so
mean
confusing.
you cannot buy a Mac Pro that can do ray tracing then? Because I think ray tracing was added in M3. Look that up. Someone fact check me on that.
if that's true, then yeah,
That's crazy.
that's a bummer. Yeah.
RTX on, baby. RTX.
I have a Mac Pro on my desk. I've been using and editing it. It's M2 Ultra. It's a great computer. I also have one internal PCI card in there. It's got like a 90 terabyte SSD RAID, and that's super useful for my backup. There is no reason I should be using a Mac Pro still. I should just use a Mac Studio.
They're so funny because they're like 90% air on the inside.
Yeah, it's just airflow.
That's the Mac Air.
So I might as well, at this point, like my next desktop computer is, I think, an M5 Ultra Mac Studio with like a single Thunderbolt cable to like my little SSD backup. I think that's what it has to be, because I think Mac Pro is just, Apple's done with like giving that attention and resources.
Marcus, what you should do is they make these like rack units that have, for a Mac Studio, that have a Thunderbolt port like built into the back. So as soon as you put it in the rack, it like plugs into the Thunderbolt, and then it adds to like one or two PCIe card slots in it.
Yeah.
So you can still use your giant hard drive. And what's really cool is there's like this, a lot of them have this mechanical situation where you push a button on the front that pushes an armature that links around the back. So it moves the power button to the front.
Oh, that's hilarious. It's funny because the difference, now that Thunderbolt 5 is out, it's enough bandwidth for me to do what I was going to do with that PCI storage. I think there's still people who use PCI for other things they need all that bandwidth for. But for me, accessing like 40 terabytes of backup footage, I can edit off of a Thunderbolt 5 drive at this point.
Yeah, and
so
you're going to need to edit off of those drives you already have because the cost of storage is up 10x from what it was a year ago.
Yeah.
So
I think my Mac Pro is on its way out at some point, and I'm hoping to see an M5 Ultra, even though we don't even have M4 Ultra yet.
It would be nice. It'd be nice. Yeah. Well, speaking of, there's some other things that we're probably going to see. Probably an M5 Pro and M5 Max MacBook Pro, because they still have not released M5 Pro and M5 Max. That's correct, right?
Yep.
No Mac Mini with M5
Just
Pro.
base M5.
They haven't talked about the Mac Mini. Apparently, some new, potentially cheaper displays, which could be cool, because currently you've got the Studio display, which is cheaper, and then you've got the Pro Display XDR, which has not been updated in a really, really, really long time. Yeah. Maybe something in the middle could be nice, something that's Pro but isn't $6,000.
Both of those displays are in a really weird place in the market. Mm-hmm. Like, Andrew, you know a lot more about like displays and the variety of displays you can get. But I just feel like the Pro Display XDR is a $5,000 monitor.
Well, and $1,000 stand.
Plus $1,000 stand, plus $1,000 nano texture coating that's on mine. It's like, and it's a 60 hertz display. So on paper it looks ridiculous, but it has the brightness, it has the color calibration, it has like what we need for everyone on the studio seeing the exact same color, which is awesome. The Studio display, correct me if I'm wrong, $1,700, I think.
I think it's $1,700.
Also 60 hertz.
Yeah,
27-inch display. It's kind of, it gets pitched by Apple in these like kind of creative scenarios sometimes because it's a studio display.
Yeah.
But also like the display for your bedroom or the display for just the computer you have in your house. It's kind of a silly buy.
The rumor is going to be Studio Display 2.
Oh,
okay.
So just an update to it.
And this is from 9 to 5 Mac, and they're saying that they're thinking it will have a higher refresh rate, either 90 or 120 hertz.
Please.
An A19 chip in it, because currently it has the A13 Bionic chip in it. That's to allow this camera and speakers and stuff to do all the Apple magic.
Sure.
Potentially a mini LED display, which should be good, and HDR support.
Sure.
So,
and that is probably, I think, all I would need of that computer, and hopefully it's reasonably priced.
Yeah.
Not sure I can cross my fingers for that last
Yeah,
part.
well, the last part,
Yeah.
say goodbye to, but
I imagine it'll be about the same price. I think that there are just not that many good Thunderbolt displays right now, and that's what a lot of people come back to when they talk about the Studio display, is like it's lacking on a lot of features, but there are just not a lot of displays where you can just plug in one cable and everything just works perfectly.
Yeah, there's a small handful. I've seen some reviews. There's like the LG Ultrafine stuff, and I think we have like a Dell one now that I've gotten really. It's like the giant 5K.
Yeah.
So
It's slightly big.
so there's some interesting choices out there. Almost all of them are at least higher refresh rate. I can't believe Apple's still shipping like this expensive of a display at 60 hertz.
it's hard to compare, like you said, the Pro Display XDR, because you're looking at things that are like color calibrated, and once you start getting into those monitors, they're niche as well and super expensive. So if you were looking at pure specs, you could probably find 800 monitors that are better
for $6,000.
Yeah. But then you get into that.
But then in
so niche in there.
In color calibration world, there's like $40,000 monitors.
Plus you want a cheese grater on the back, which is the most important part that's behind your wall.
This is huge. Yeah. Every day I walk around the side of my desk and I just check the back just to make sure the cheese grater holes are still there. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
And then some other potential updates. A18 base iPad, so just kind of bumping that up. M4 iPad Air, so it's in the middle, finally getting M4. iPhone 17e, which again, we don't really expect anything to be different from the 16e.
They gotta have.
It's going to be so funny.
They gotta have MagSafe.
I hope they do the same thing Pixel just did, because if 16e was already bust of the year last year, terrible phone to buy. If 17e is exactly the same, when they then made the base 17 like a deal, like we finally said an iPhone was a deal. If then it's the same as the 16e, it's going to be somehow a worse deal than it already was.
That would be head scratching. That would be crazy.
And none of us would be surprised by it at all.
So just a new chip. And maybe the new dynamic island, I guess. Is that it? I guess.
I can't even remember what the 16e
I don't even.
had.
It had the
60 hertz,
had the notch. Yeah.
Thicker bezels, no MagSafe, no fast charge. It has wireless charging, but no magnets, obviously.
Yeah.
And like black or white are the only colors. Single camera, like really truly a base phone, like single speakers at the bottom, like really base phone. I don't see them changing a lot of that stuff. They're just going to probably do a chip bump and maybe a display bump to like at this point, like the first Dynamic Island LCD that they ever made. Did they ever do an LCD Dynamic Island? Maybe not. So maybe it's an OLED. Maybe it's an OLED.
Only OLED. Yeah, it would have to be OLED if it was Dynamic Island.
So that'd be cool. Yeah. And then I guess the same phone otherwise, sadly.
Yep. Starting at $600. Yeah.
Okay,
Awkward.
16E is already OLED, so that's good. It'll be OLED. That's good.
It seems like it's quite a month of quote unquote updating things.
Slight updates for 20.
Slight updates. It's like Samsung, Google, and Apple are all just not really updating things.
And these are still the companies that are like mega companies that are big enough to not be as price sensitive with memory with all that's happening. Yeah. Right? Mm-hmm. Like we think GPUs, memory, all that stuff.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, I think Apple can basically just eat the cost at this point. Even if it eats into their margin to the point where they lose money, I think they're willing to eat the cost, thinking that maybe within a year memory will go back down because they don't want to be unstable and dynamically change their pricing constantly, especially for a mega corporation like that, and that would be a bad look. We do have one more event, though. There's going to be a Nothing event for the Nothing 4A on the 5th, and Carl Pei decided to do what Carl Pei does, and he took the Apple event invite, and he made a little Photoshop spray paint thing of nothing and over the Apple logo, and then put March 5th instead of March 4th.
Neat.
Funny, kind of almost a callback. Almost a callback to 2018 when there was going to be a OnePlus event that Carl was the head of, and they announced it, and it was a big fanfare. And then 2 weeks before before Apple was like, actually, we're going to have an event on that day. And then OnePlus had to literally move to a week later because they're like, we literally cannot compete.
Did they move it a week? I thought they moved it like one day.
They moved it a week after.
I think they moved it a week later.
It was really funny, though, because everyone in my world was like, so which one are you going to? Yeah, we all knew.
If this is a callback to that, I'll give Carl some credit for this. I think that's funny. I think if you can joke about something funny that happened to you in the past that probably screwed up a lot of things.
Yeah. Well, ironically, this 4A seems to be the only thing that has a new design. So I guess you gotta give credit where it's due.
Fair enough.
I've got a kind of a thing here on we're getting a lot of tweets because Apple just announced video podcasts through Apple Podcasts. And obviously, like Spotify, a lot of people have been asking us if we are going to put it on. So let me explain what's happening and then explain if we will be on it or not. They launched their video podcast experience on the podcast app, which lets people stream through HTTP live streaming, and you will be able to download for offline viewing. This is something they just announced on Monday, I think it was. In their press release, Apple said, we are putting creators in full control of their content and how they build their businesses while making it easier than ever for audiences to listen to or watch podcasts. So everyone's asking us, will we be putting it on it? And right now the answer is no, because we can't, because Megaphone is not one of the partners that's working with this so far. It is opening with Art19, Omni Studio, Simplecast, and AdsWiz. Those are all the platforms of publishing that will be able to use this. Does say there will be more participating partners later, but we're in the Vox Media Podcast Network and we use Megaphone, which is also owned by Spotify. So I don't know when they will be joining the Apple Podcasts video platform for this. But it is kind of cool that they're allowing dynamically inserted video ads, including host reads, which is a big thing in video podcasting right now. That's still kind of weird. If you watch us on YouTube, those are obviously not dynamically inserted. They're
Until the
baked into
YouTube
the
feature
videos.
gets added.
Till that gets added, we'll see what that does. Podcasting and podcast ads are so based on dynamically inserted ads because when you're just downloading and streaming audio all the time, it gets swapped out. And that's kind of how people can find ways to advertise on there. It's much easier when you can't see if the host is wearing a different shirt or not. On video podcasts, we re-record our ads every week. I think Vox thinks we're crazy that we do that, but we do because we like things to be as high quality as they are,
Continuity,
even
baby.
if it's an ad you're going to skip. So we'll see what that does. The reason we still have to see how this plays out, though, because the way Spotify did video, and one of the reasons we're still not on there is like, we were worried, and it might still take over if they take the video audio and turn that into the audio thing, we might lose all of the advertising that's coming through Vox or whichever podcast network we're with. And if they're doing their weird ads just from Spotify, if Apple were to do something like that, I don't know. We need to see what it does because I don't think people realize how much ads in podcasts is what makes or breaks a
And
podcast.
also, just to be transparent, like we're half a podcast, we're half a YouTube channel, basically, and we need to keep getting views on YouTube because that's how we grow and make money, discoverability, that kind of stuff. Yeah. And it's just kind of awkward now that everyone's like, just put it in here because we don't get paid for that. So I understand the flexibility and being able to jump between the audio and the video in the same app is nice. But if the Waveform YouTube channel starts getting less and less views because people are watching it on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and then we don't get money for that, it's kind of hard to.
It's also
it feels weird.
It'll be once like podcast networks who seems pretty. I don't want to say behind, but the podcasting in general is not really up to date with advertising everywhere else. Yeah. So once they get stuff working. And figuring out rates and stuff like that, it could totally work. Yeah. And I wonder how much we would lose on if it would be on Spotify. Like if it's just our audio listeners wanting to hop into video, if that would actually hit our YouTube at all. There's just a lot more to it than just can you post it on that?
Like the reason Joe Rogan took that $10 million deal or whatever it was, $100 million.
It's because we turned it down.
Because he was the B plan. But the reason he took the $100 million deal was like he was making a lot of money on YouTube.
Yeah, that's how much it cost to convince him to not put it on YouTube.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I think it's also, worth remembering that YouTube is still technically the largest podcast platform and has a lot of influence on how podcasts get made and shared. And we are a podcast. But as you said, we're a YouTube channel as well. And so there's different things that you optimize for and different formats that you lean into.
Yeah.
So
Apple Podcasts does a decent job of doing like charts and different suggested shows. So I think some podcasters who maybe are smaller that have video or like introducing it to that might introduce you to a new audience.
Totally.
Which could be cool. But in terms of us doing it quite yet, we've got a lot of stuff to figure out before we hop on that.
I think Apple Podcasts may be, in my opinion, in my limited experience, the only other podcast platform that is big enough and has enough discoverability through those charts that you could be swayed to go, all right, we should be putting everything on Apple Podcasts because people will find us there and we'll chart there sometimes and get new viewership there. I could see that.
Yeah.
It's much easier to convince someone about YouTube there, but I could see that.
And either way, competition is good. Like if Vimeo ever got big enough to be competitive to YouTube, people would have better ad rates on YouTube.
It's true.
So
there'd be Vimeo podcasts.
Yeah. If Spotify and Apple and YouTube all want to like battle it out on who pays the most to video viewers, then go at it. Like
be my guest.
Be my guest. That would be nice.
We love it.
Is podcasting dead?
Podcasting is more of a concept.
That's fair.
I think that it's not what it used to be. Everything's just a talk show now.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
I feel like the beauty of podcasting before was that you could just record something, put it on RSS and like be done with it.
Yeah.
To have like ads now. The problem, I wish there was like just some free third party thing where we can upload our
like
own
a
video
federated
ads.
protocol.
If only there was some way to like insert it dynamically in an open manner into each video.
That'd be crazy.
Yeah, but YouTube, Spotify, Apple, none of these platforms are ever going to let that happen. So like this is the conundrum we're in, where this podcast industry is kind of exploding. It's on Netflix now. HBO has podcasts after Game of Thrones. It's just like there's so many different places to upload video.
The fear too is like why we're with a podcast network that does audio ads and stuff like that is going through an RSS feed, and where whenever we start seeing Spotify or Apple trying to do it, it's like, well, what cut are they going to start trying to take or figuring out or controlling ads and jumping on it first as a established place? Doesn't seem like the best idea.
If there were an open federated protocol, we wouldn't have to have a middleman. Just saying, maybe that's something I should vibe code at with my Claude bot at ClaudeCon or whatever it's called.
Hey, thanks for watching this clip. I have a feeling that whatever I said in that clip was kind of a hot take, so do me a favor, and if you agree with my take in the clip, give us a thumbs up on this video. If you don't agree with my take, leave a comment down below. Thanks.